So welcome to the second session of financial management and costing. Briefly revise what we discussed in the last session. Can you remember the financial decisions which a financial manager takes? Can you tell me the names of some of the decisions?
Like from where he can gather capital.
Yes, so
Or
that is called as financing decisions. Okay, so what are the two components in that?
uh, equity and debt.
Yes. Okay. So we never go for all the funds raised through equity or all the funds raised through debt. There has to be a trade-off between the two. So the reason we had seen both of them have certain advantages, certain disadvantages. Okay. So we'll see more on that. What is the other decision? Someone else?
आवाज कट होता है सर.
Someone else would like to say what is the another decision? Hello. आवाज येतोय ना?
Yes.
Once you get the funds, what you do with that? If you want to earn profit, what will you do? Will you put it in fixed deposit?
Invest.
So investment decisions are the second most important decisions which the financial manager has to take. And related to that, everything will be discussed in unit number 2. That is also called as capital budgeting decisions. Okay, so first thing is raising the funds, require funds, then investing them in the proper profitable options available to us. Okay, so that we can earn the profit on that investment, which should be higher than what you get if we put the same amount in FDs or say government bonds, which is a risk-free investment. Okay, what is the third decision? What the manager? Is my voice clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So third decision is
Dividend
what
decision.
is related to the shareholders. What? Yeah, dividend decisions. Decisions on how much profit should we share with the shareholders from our profits. What is the percentage of dividends? So whatever we share, that is called as the dividend payout ratio, and what we retain is called as the retention ratio. Okay, so that also hampers or say affects the profit of business. Okay, and the last one is that is called as short-term decisions, which are liquidity decisions. Okay, so what do we do in that? Financial manager, what exactly he has to do in liquidity decisions? It is nothing but maintaining a adequate amount of cash in hand so that we can meet our day-to-day requirements. Okay, for the activities we need cash. It doesn't mean investment means you invest everything into the long-term investment options. Okay, you need to also have some cash at hand. So the management of that, too much cash is also not desirable, too lesser cash is also not desirable. Okay, so that is a very again and very critical decision a financial manager has to continuously do. Okay, now today's objectives are we'll try to understand what is that goal which guides the financial manager in making his decisions, his or her decisions, and we'll end up with the discussion of risk and return trade-off and the overview of financial management. Okay, so the decisions which we have discussed are all important. Out of that, financing and investment decisions are all the more very important, and a financial manager needs some goal to guide him while making those decisions. Okay, so it has been found out that maximizing the shareholders' wealth, okay, is the most appropriate, periodically correct, and operationally feasible goal, which should guide the decisions of the financial manager. Okay, but let us discuss, can there be any other goals which could guide? Okay, so some of them could be very uh, easily acceptable, as like the name is given here, profit maximization. So we will try to see profit maximization, what are the issues with that, why it cannot be a appropriate and operationally feasible goal to guide the financial manager in making various decisions which we just discussed. Okay, so these are the objections. So let us first understand how does a price system acts. Okay, so in the market, the companies will produce those products and the services which are really required by the society. Okay, or they may try to create an illusion in the mind of the people that they require it. Okay, so both ways it may be done, but ideally it has to be the manufacturing of the products and the provision of the services which are really required for the progress of the society. Okay, so generally the firms deal with these products and services. Now when those products and services are in great demand, what will happen to the prices of those services and the products? You might have studied the relationship between supply and demand. So my question is, if a particular thing is in too much demand, what will happen to the prices?
Price will increase.
Prices
Yeah, so
increase.
price will increase because there are more takers than the providers of that particular product. Okay, so what will happen naturally? The
Supply increases.
no, supply will increase only if there are new entrants who are entering into that business. Okay, so what will happen? The new companies will be attracted to these products and services. They will jump into that businesses. Okay, and they would try to provide for the extra supply which is required. Okay, and there
Yes,
will
sir.
be a stage reached when the supply matches with the demand. Okay, and when the supply is increasing, try to understand, prices are also coming down. Okay, but they will come down only till the extent where supply matches the demand. Okay,
Yes, sir.
once that stage has reached, any new entrant tries to enter the business. Obviously, there are number of advantages which the earlier entrants have, which he does not have, and on the top of that, there is not enough demand also which is left out in the market. Okay, for which the new people or the customers will get attracted to that new entrant. Okay, so this is what is called as happens in an truly governed market economy. Okay, so market economy and government control economy, these are the two terms which are used in economy. So pure market economy means what we just discussed. Okay, and the government economy, that is called as the market economy and the command economy. So command economy means government plays a major role. Okay, so nowadays what we see in our country is a market economy and a command economy combination. As and when government needs to intervene, it intervenes. Otherwise, mostly the things are governed by the supply and demand of the most required products and services for the society. Okay, so this is what we discussed is happens in the perfect competition. Okay, So perfect competition has got certain characteristics wherein the customers are aware of the prices and the products. There is no differentiation in the products provided by the various companies, and the logistic costs are immaterial, like they do not affect the prices of the products. So there are a number of other characteristics of the perfect competition, but majorly this is the thing. So I want to ask you, do you feel that these factors are prevalent in any product competition? That the customers are really aware about what is the fair price of the product, and the products
No, sir.
whether companies are same. So that is not same. So that's why we say that perfect competition is rarely seen in today's scenario. So perfect competition examples may be some agricultural products like some quality of wheat, rice. Wherever you go in India, you will, depending on, obviously the logistic cost may get added, but more or less, if you are trying to purchase a particular brand of rice or a wheat or any other commonly grown food, you will not find much differences. Okay, 1 or 2 rupees here and there, that is the thing which we get. Okay, so that is all the agricultural products are mostly perfect competition products. Okay, so only when there is some very drastic changes in supply and demand, the prices may increase, but it increases everywhere. So prices of those products are more or less common. Okay, but when you come to the other products and services, which are like computer goods, electronic goods, or telecommunication or digital products and all, obviously there are different companies and there is some differentiation they create in the minds of the people. Or it may be there are certain features like automobiles and all, they are different in different facilities. So this is technically termed as monopolistic competition. Okay, and there are also examples of monopoly, oligopoly. So oligopoly means there are very few players because the entry in that domain is very restricted by the type of technology you and the type of capital, the amount of huge capital you need. So for example, energy sector, there are very few names: BPCL, HPCL, Reliance,
Adani.
Indian Oil Corporation. These are the in energy sector I am telling. Fuel maybe, and energy may, then there is Tata Power, Reliance Power, and all. There are some government companies. Okay, then steel manufacturing also you see, SAIL is there, Jindal Steel, Tata Steel. So these businesses are such that technology has to be very it's very difficult to acquire, as well as the amount of capital which is required is very huge. Okay, so oligopoly is also seen, monopoly is seen. Monopoly means only one player is there. Okay, so mostly the government things which are like IRCT, Indian Railways, and all those things are coming under that. Okay, so we see perfect competition does not actually exist. Okay, that's why we say all the characteristics of the perfect competition which lead to the profit maximization as the very theoretically correct goal for guiding the financial decision is actually of no use. Okay, so this perfect competition and price system, why does it lead to the profit maximization or say proper financial decision guidance? Reason is, whatever we discussed till now, all the players will only enter into the products and services which are needed by the society. Under perfect competition, if suppose we are the owners and we are trying to maximize my profit, okay, so indirectly, while maximizing my profit, I without my knowledge, I am also aware of the society's needs. Okay, and in order to maximize my profit, I will also utilize the available resources which are in a very efficient way. Only then I can increase my profit. Okay, so that's why it is also very easy to take it as a theoretically correct, theoretically which can guide the decisions of the financial manager. Okay, are you understanding this point which I made? Why
Yes.
as a owner of the company, I am trying to maximize or focus only on my profits. Indirectly, I am also doing something good for the society by efficiently using the available resources, limited resources, and I am also providing the goods and the services which are required actually by the society. Okay, and I am trying to reduce my prices as far as possible. Okay, but it is not because first reason as it is mentioned here, it assumes that perfect competition is present, but we discussed now that there is no perfect competition ideally seen in food market. Then the second problem is some decades ago, the nature of the business was self-financed. Okay, it was individually managed. Okay, and uh, entrepreneurship, there were single entrepreneurs. Okay, but today's situation is different. Today's new business environment is there is a divorce between the ownership and the management. So divorce means what? The company is owned by holders, the shareholders, and the major players of the firm, but they are managed by the professional managers. Okay, CFOs, what we call them. So these people are hired for managing the firm, but the capital is invested by the shareholders and the major players. Okay, so in this scenario, the stakeholders of the firms, which were earlier only the owner of the firm, now there are government is also a stakeholder, the customers are stakeholders, then there is a society and the environment. These are all stakeholders of the company. The way they churn out their products and the services, it can also affect environmental environment in a bad way. It also could bring out some issues for the government as well as customers over a longer period of time because of this. Okay, so it's not only individual owners are the of the company, but we also need to take care of the interest of all these four stakeholders: governments, customers, environment. Okay, so in new business environment, that's why we say that profit maximization is an unrealistic, difficult, inappropriate, and immoral goal. Okay, so immoral means it may not exactly only look for the benefit of the society and the customers or even employees. Okay, it may only focus if it is only focusing on the owner's profits. Okay, like black marketing and all these are the concepts which could be misused. Okay, creating an false demand by restricting the supply. Okay, now the third thing is it may also lead to the production of goods and services that are wasteful and unnecessary. So unnecessary competition, what it will create is the products and the services which are required, they might be produced in a very huge quantities without looking at the demand. Okay, so there is a wasteful and unnecessary creation of the products and services. Then it also may lead to what is called as inequality of income and wealth because of this. Okay, so for this reason, government needs to intervene and the competition. Okay, so we might have heard about that present government has allowed some new people to enter into gas business in Delhi area and some related areas. Okay, so when government helps these new people to enter into the business, obviously competition will increase because instead of having only 2 to 3 sources where I can go for gas connections, I have some more players, and obviously it will affect the market in a positive way for the customers. Okay, so wherever such kind of inequality of income and wealth may be seen, the government intervenes. Whatever resources they have, they use those resources and positively encourage the competition. Okay, which lead to the equality of income and wealth. Okay, So the last one is it is not operationally feasible, and mostly we are going to focus on these 3 points throughout our discussion wherever it comes. First one is it is vague. It is vague means profit maximization. When you talk about, now there are 3 to 5 types of profits. Okay, there is profit before taxes, profit after taxes. There is EBITDA, it is called as earnings before taxes, depreciation and amortization. Okay, then there is a PAT, I told you, profit after taxes. And there are other conditions also, like short-term profit or long-term profit. Does it mean operating profit or whether it is a profit accrued to shareholders? Okay, so this profit term itself is a very ambiguous and vague term. Okay, so we need to pinpoint which kind of profit you are talking of maximizing. Okay, so that is not clear here. Then second one is it ignores the timing of the returns. Okay, so for example, this is a very important concept, and there are a number of concepts on which numericals will be asked in the exam, ignoring the timing of the that is timing of the returns. Like suppose I give promise of giving 1 lakh rupees now, okay, but if I give you 1 lakh rupees after 2 years, will the 1 lakh rupees is the same in value or it is different?
नाही सर बदलते त्याची व्हॅल्यू.
So 1 lakh rupees after 2 years I am getting, obviously its value is lesser than if I am going to get 1 lakh rupees immediately. Okay, so that is called as time value of the money. Okay, means I will expect that 1 lakh rupees, if he is not giving me today, after 2 years if he is giving, there has to be some increase in 1 lakh rupees. दो साल का इंटरेस्ट जो है अगर आप ऐड करोगे उसके अंदर तो ऑलमोस्ट 7% के हिसाब से 1,14,000 एटलीस्ट आई शुड गेट. ओके, so this concept is used in finding out the net present value. That is, suppose a particular project, I am trying to predict that after say 3 years it is going to generate cash flows of 50 lakh rupees. Okay, so I will have to convert those 50 lakh rupees what it will be today, that is 3 years before, because I am taking decisions now. So 50 lakh I need to discount. Okay, so discounting हम लोग करते हैं and try to find out that 50 lakh rupees after 3 years means today's what value. Okay, and then we compare like inflows are going today, इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हो आज जा रहा है और 3 साल के बाद में मुझे 50 लाख मिला, तो 50 लाख का आज का वैल्यू क्या है, दैट आई विल नीड फॉर कंपेयरिंग. If I don't do that, then obviously I am ignoring the time value of the returns. Okay, so that is not present in profit maximization. It doesn't tell, it takes the profits which are accrued today or after 1 year or 3 years as the same. It doesn't give any importance to timing of the returns. Okay, and the third one is it ignores risk. Risk also is a very important term in financial management. Suppose I give you two options. There is a company which is earning some profit stably, consistently, without much fluctuations. Suppose 3 years data, if you see, every year it has got consistently some amount of profits they are earning. Now the second company is there, which profit is higher than the first one, but there are good amount of fluctuations from year to year profits. Which will you prefer?
Constantly increasing company.
Yeah, so constantly or stability in whatever profits they are able to generate, but there is a consistency. So you will have more faith that next 4th year also they will be able to give me more or less the same profit. But what about the second option? Because it is fluctuating too much, I am not much sure whether the 4th year I will get whatever high profits it has given in the 3rd year, because 2nd year it has not given that much profits. Okay, so there is a risk involved. So this risk component also has to be included, which is not included in profit maximization goal. Okay, so it has to be all the factors have to be straight upon while making decisions of all the kinds. Okay, so that is not done here. Now let us imagine that we are talking about maximization of profit after taxes. यानी एक एम्बिग्यूटी था कि भाई कौन सा प्रॉफिट आप बोल रहे हो, तो आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट व्हाई फाइनेंशियल maximization of profit after taxes. Okay, so now under this, just take an example is given in the book of Anand Pandey that suppose a company has 10,000 shares. Okay, 10,000 शेयर्स उसके पास हैं और हर एक का अर्निंग पर शेयर है 5. ओके, सो प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्सेस प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्सेस इज 50,000 रुपीज. 10,000 शेयर कितना प्रॉफिट हुआ उसका? 5 रुपए. 10,000 शेयर से 50,000 का प्रॉफिट हुआ आफ्टर टैक्सेस का, यानी सब टैक्सेस पे करने के बाद में वो साल में उसने 50,000 रुपए प्रॉफिट कमाया, तो 5 रुपए पर शेयर उसका. Now suppose the company sells 10,000 additional shares, यानी कि 10,000 शेयर्स और वो लॉन्च करता है एंड पब्लिक कैन परचेज देम एंड इन्वेस्ट देयर मनी इनटू द कंपनी. ओके, सो 10,000 शेयर्स 50 रुपए के भाव से, यानी 50 रुपए का एक शेयर, और 10,000 शेयर्स आपने किए, तो कितना उसने रेज किया? 5 लाख रुपए उसने रेज किया फंड्स. ओके, 5 लाख रुपए इट रेज. अभी अगर ये 5 लाख रुपए है, वो 5% के हिसाब से, यानी आफ्टर टैक्सेस प्रॉफिट, टैक्सेस पे करने के बाद 5% उसको मिल रहा है प्रॉफिट, तो उसका प्रॉफिट कितना? 5 लाख के ऊपर 25,000 rupees. Okay, which is additional to what it has earned before. 50,000 प्रॉफिट था उसमें 25,000 रुपए ऐड हो जाएंगे, तो कितना हो गया? 75,000 हो गया उसका प्रॉफिट बढ़ गया. लेकिन अभी कितने हुए? 20,000 हो गए, बराबर है ना? तो 10,000 शेयर्स के ऊपर 50,000 का प्रॉफिट और 20,000 शेयर्स के ऊपर 75,000 का प्रॉफिट. तो 5 रुपए पहले था अर्निंग्स पर शेयर, रिड्यूस्ड टू 3.75, है ना? अर्निंग्स पर शेयर कम हो गया, बढ़ा, because of whatever activities or decisions they took of selling 10,000 more shares to generate 5 lakh capital, which is only 5% after taxes. Okay, so are you understanding? Like if you are talking about maximizing after taxes, you can do such things. Okay, but it will obviously not lead to maximizing other things like maximizing earning per profit. Earning per share will not increase, but it will reduce. Okay, so it is not a proper decision or a goal to guide our financial decisions. Okay, earnings per share must increase whatever decisions we take. Okay, similarly, earning per maximizing earnings per share. Okay, so this also could not be the goal, theoretically correct or feasible. Why? Because it ignores again the timing of the returns as well as the risk. Okay, so risk or return जो है, risk and return as well as the timing of the profits, this is ignored under maximization of earning per profit. Okay, so now the question is, what could be the ideal goal for financial decision making? It is said as shareholders wealth maximization.
सर पहिले आपण जे बघितलं त्यात हे वाढवायचं
काय?
ते 70,000 एक्झाम्पल दिलं 70,000चं, तर त्यात शेअर होल्डरला प्रॉफिट नाही भेटणार, फक्त कंपनीला प्रॉफिट भेटेल ना जास्त.
नहीं, करेक्ट अंडरस्टैंड. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट मैक्सिमाइजिंग प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्सेस. तो उसके लिए उसने एक डिसीजन लिया है कि 10,000 शेयर्स वो और फ्लोट करेगा नए. जैसे रिलायंस है, तो रिलायंस को अगर कैपिटल चाहिए तो वो क्या करेगा? और कुछ शेयर्स बोलेगा कि भाई मैं फ्लोट कर रहा हूँ, मुझे इतने शेयर्स डालना है. अभी कैसा होता है कि शेयर्स आर फिक्स ना है. जब आईपीओ लॉन्च किया उस टाइम जितने शेयर्स उसको डालना था वो डाल दिया. अभी सेकेंडरी मार्केट में जो भी शेयर्स है वही लोग ट्रेड कर रहे हैं ना, बाय कर रहे हैं, सेल कर रहे हैं. टुडे आई परचेज, मे बी आफ्टर फ्यू डेज आई सेल. सो नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स विच आर available for trading is very less actually. there are maximum shares are owned by the board of directors, like मुकेश अंबानी के पास ज़्यादा शेयर्स रहेंगे, बाद में म्यूचुअल फंड, FIIs like foreign institutional investors, DIIs जो भी म्यूचुअल फंड्स है ये जो, और HNI हाई नेटवर्क इंडिविजुअल्स, इनके पास करोड़ों रुपए रहते हैं और वो लोग के पास करोड़ों शेयर्स है, तो वो लोग रोज के रोज बेचते सेल नहीं करते। तो जो फ्लोटिंग सप्लाई है उसमें ही जो नए जो लोग अपने जैसे रिटेलर्स है वो लोग डील कर सकते हैं। What I am talking is, suppose whatever number of shares are there that they try to increase. Suppose Reliance जैसे कोई भी कंपनी, अच्छा कंपनी अगर और शेयर्स फ्लोट करते तो ऑब्वियसली पीपल विल परचेस ना। तो उसने 10,000 एक्स्ट्रा डाले और जो 5 लाख अर्न किया उसको उसने इन्वेस्ट किया। हाँ, तो डाउट क्या है आपका?
नाही सर,
व्हाट इज द डाउट?
हा सर, मी म्हणत होतो की आता जर त्यांनी अजून शेअर टाकले ज्या कंपनीचे, तर ते जे पहिले 5 रुपये भेटणार होते पर शेअर लोकांना, तर ते नंतर 3.5 ने भेटतील, तर म्हणजे शेअर होल्डरला
बरोबर आहे,
प्रॉफिट
3.5
कमी होईल. हा हा
कमी होईल ना, तेच नाही म्हणतात ना,
हा.
कमी होईल.
ते कमी- हा, मग तेच.
अर्निंग पर शेयर हैज रिड्यूस्ड बिकॉज द 5 लाख रुपीज which was raised, वो इमीडिएटली उन लोगों को अच्छे ऑप्शन में इन्वेस्ट करने को नहीं मिला ना। दे आर अर्निंग ओनली एट 5% और समथिंग लाइक दैट, व्हाटएवर इट इज। सो example tells you that this is not the right way or the right goal to guide the decisions of finance department। यानी अगर प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्सेस मैक्सिमाइजेशन गोल रहेगा ना, तो इट इज नॉट अ करेक्ट गोल। दैट्स व्हाट आई एम टेकिंग, दैट इज व्हाट वी आर कंक्लूडिंग फ्रॉम हियर। ओके,
कळलं सर.
और अर्निंग्स पर शेयर में व्हाट वी इग्नोर इज टाइम एंड द रिस्क। दिस टू फैक्टर्स वी आर इग्नोरिंग। Okay, so there is only one goal, shareholders wealth maximization, that is nothing but maximizing the share price of the company. That takes care of everything, all the factors. So that is what we are suggesting that should be the goal of finance decisions. Okay, तो अब ये shareholder wealth maximization की क्या है कि it basically focuses on maximizing the net present value, NPV। ये वर्ड आपने सुना रहेगा if you are having some exposure to the investment instruments like mutual fund or any other thing। तो net value हम लोग डिस्कस करते हैं। shareholders wealth maximization involves maximizing the net present value of the various actions, financial actions to the shareholder। okay, any course of action we take, maximizing the net present value of that course of action to the shareholders is called as it is involved in shareholders wealth maximization। अभी उसका concept क्या है? Suppose we have got 3 options, वहाँ जहाँ पे हम लोग इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं पैसे। हमारे पास समझो few crores are we are trying to invest in some new venture or new project। okay, so this all 3 projects will be evaluated by net present value method। that is one of the methods which will study under second unit capital budgeting के। इसमें हम लोग ये पढ़ेंगे। तो समझो पहला जो प्रोजेक्ट है उसका कैश इनफ्लो, समझो पहले साल में वो आपको 50 लाख देने वाला है, दूसरे साल में आपको 2 करोड़ देगा, तीसरे साल में आपको समझो 5 करोड़ दे रहे हैं। तो ये जो फ्लोज है ना, कैश फ्लोज आर डिस्काउंटेड फॉर टुडेज वैल्यू। जो 3 करोड़ मिलने वाला है मुझे, उसका आज का वैल्यू क्या होएगा। सो लाइक दैट वी फाइंड आउट नेट प्रेजेंट वैल्यू ऑफ ऑल द 3 प्रोजेक्ट्स, एंड whichever net present value is positive and the maximum, that project we go for। okay, so ideally the net present value of the firm should be positive in a sense it is should be higher than the opportunity cost of capital of the shareholders। okay, और cost of capital हमने क्या बोला था? रिस्क फ्री रिटर्न, यानी कि जो हम लोग गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स या फिक्स डिपॉजिट में अर्न कर सकते हैं वो पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट पे, वो जो रेट है उसको कट ऑफ रेट या अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट कैपिटल, उससे ज्यादा होना चाहिए आपका एनपीवी। उससे कम है तो वो निगेटिव एनपीवी हो गया। और से निगेटिव एनपीवी आल्सो वी कैन से इन द सेंस दैट जो इनफ्लोज है, हमने जितना इन्वेस्टमेंट किया आज के टाइम में उससे कम प्राइस आ रहा है मेरे को जब मैं इवेल्युएट करता हूँ कि उसके फ्यूचर के And the thing which we want to understand is benefits are measured in terms of cash inflows rather than accounting profits. Okay, so प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट में आपको प्रॉफिट्स दिखते हैं, बराबर है, बट दैट इज नॉट व्हाट इज टू बी कंसिडर्ड. एक्चुअल कैश फ्लोज क्या हो रहा है, कितना जा रहा है और कितना आ रहा है, दैट हैज टू बी कंसिडर्ड व्हाइल मेकिंग द डिसीजंस. But the major questions in this section are explain the overview of the financial management, explain the risk and the return trade-off, what are the various decisions the financial manager takes, and why shareholders wealth maximization and not the profit maximization is the theoretically and operationally feasible goal for guiding the financial decisions. Okay, now this is the okay, अभी आया है ना. So this figure will tell you the concept of risk and return trade-off. Are you able to see the figure? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So quickly we'll go through this, maybe next 2-3 minutes. Give me. Whenever you're talking about maximizing the shareholders' wealth, it leads to maximizing the share price of the company's shares. Okay, so now how do we decide it? There are a number of factors which decide the value of the share, but major are two factors: risk and the return. Okay, so the risk and return the concept, what it is, suppose if you are putting your capital into government bonds, okay, or say fixed deposit, so what are the chances of default from the government or the banks is very less. You know, your money is safe. It will never be that you want the money and you will not be given. Okay, but what about the returns which you can get less returns as compared to if you are investing it in some good stock. Okay, shares of some good stock. Okay, so when you are putting your capital into default free risk instruments like risk free returns, you get only the risk free returns. Okay, but suppose if you are putting your capital into some stocks of some company, okay, so over and above that you get some risk premium. So you should be getting risk premium. So this risk-free return compensates for the time. एग्जाम्पल दिया था ना कि 1 लाख आप आपके दोस्त को दे रहे हो 3 साल के लिए, तो 3 साल के बाद में 1 लाख ही देगा तो उसको मतलब नहीं है ना. एटलीस्ट ही शुड बी रिटर्निंग यू 1,21,000 एट द 7% रिस्क फ्री रिटर्न ऑफ द फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट. ओके, तो ये जो है वो इट कॉम्पेंसेट फॉर द टाइम. रिस्क फ्री रिटर्न कॉम्पेंसेट्स फॉर द टाइम, and the risk premium, which is over and above risk free return, compensates for the risk which you are taking. Okay, if you are putting your money into something else other than government bonds or the fixed deposit, you are risking capital. Okay, so you are going to expect a higher return. That is called as a risk premium. Okay, so there has to be proper balance. You cannot expect or go for a very high risk और अ वेरी मेजर कंपोनेंट ऑफ रिस्क फ्री रिटर्न. तो दोनों केस में आपका जो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी रहेगा इट विल बी लेस. ओके, इन वेरी हाई रिस्की थिंग देयर आर चांसेस you may not even get the returns equivalent to risk free return. Everything will be wiped out. And if you are putting your major capital in only FDs, obviously you are not taking any risk, so your profit will be lesser than the people who are taking at least certain risk. Okay, so depending on these two combinations, like when you are taking financial decisions, again when you are investing it in certain options, obviously you have to take a risk. If you don't take risk, you are not going to earn good profits. Okay, so that we see in most of the companies cases where they have the huge capital, but again, when you are investing it in new ventures, obviously you're taking a risk. Okay, so unless you take the risk, you cannot are entitled for any higher profits. Okay, आप अगर नए products में नए services में enter नहीं करोगे, if you are already working in only the most stable protected zones, obviously your profit will also not increase to that extent. Okay, तो जो share का prices है, they are guided mostly by the risk and the return trade-off. Okay.